driving our old cars with our friends, family, dogs. Best part about having an old car, right? You know what's an underrated part of driving your old cars? Being able to stop in them. That's why in this episode, we're gonna do an eBay special disc brake kit on my 1962 Pontiac station wagon here. It comes with absolutely no instructions, but who needs those anyway? It's not that hard. We're also gonna talk about when you should or shouldn't consider switching from drums to discs. Spoiler alert, it's not always about performance. A lot of times it's a lot more about dollars and cents. And the results of that math might surprise you. So if you're considering a disc brake conversion but don't know if it's for you or not, stick around. If you just want to see how to install one of your mystery disc brake kits that you get off of eBay, also stick around, but you can fast forward to a little bit later in the video and just watch the directions. Oh, and don't worry about this. Completely unrelated. From fighting a Tyrannosaurus with a battle axe. Yeah, that's how I remember that happening. What's up, guys? I'm Jeremy. Welcome back to Catfish Motorsports. This is my 1962 Pontiac Catalina Safari. Now, I drive the heck out of this car, but I really haven't done much in the way of working on it in the last almost year, really. Now, that's changing because I've got some parts that we need to install on this. First up, disc brake conversion. Notice I said conversion and not upgrade. We'll get to that in a second. And you see this side's actually already done. That is because I filmed the first half of this video before I realized my mic wasn't working. So if you see me doing some bad voiceover later, cut me some slack, that's why. Oh, and by the way, if you guys are just here because you want to see how to install a disc brake kit and you don't have any instructions, I'll chapter the video out so you can fast forward to exactly where you want to be if you don't want to hear me wax philosophical about why you should or shouldn't buy a disc brake conversion. Now for my car, I bought the cheapest disc brake kit I could find. And there's only two available. One is from Master Power Brakes, and the other one is from Tom's Classic, which is sold on eBay. It comes with 0 directions. But that's okay. I've put on a few disc brake kits before. By and large, they're gonna be kind of the same. So I'm pretty confident I can throw this on with no directions. It'll be no big deal. But if you are somebody who found this video specifically because you got a disc brake kit from Tom's Classic and feel lost because it doesn't have directions, even if you don't have the 62 Pontiac that I'm doing it on, chances are they're going to be close enough that if you follow along, I'm still going to be able to help you out. So don't fret. Now, I said earlier I'm doing a disc brake conversion, not necessarily an upgrade. Why did I say that? Well, most of your common disc brake kits that you buy are going to be based on something like this. This is an 11-inch rotor. Almost all of them, especially for GM cars, are based on, I think, 69 to 74 A-body brakes, which also would include 69 F-body. Long story short, it is still like 50-plus-year-old technology. Single piston master cylinders, 11-inch rotors, made to fit behind 15-inch wheels. So I think a lot of people have this assumption that when you do a disc brake conversion, you're switching to a much more modern technology, and that's really not the case. Now mine here is actually a little bit bigger, so it actually might be more of an upgrade. We'll return to that in a minute. Now that's not me telling you not to switch to discs. I think it's a good idea to switch to discs most of the time, but not for the reasons you think. It's probably not going to be a big performance upgrade if your drum brakes are functioning correctly. So if you have perfectly functioning drum brakes and you think that switching to a common disc kit that like Summit or the Right Stuff or Tom's Classic sells, you're probably going to be disappointed because you're likely not going to be able to feel a difference at all. Two caveats here. Number one, not all drum brake assemblies are built the same. As we'll see with this one's actually got pretty big, beefy drums on it. A lot of full-size GM cars do. If you have a 72 Duster, on the other hand, especially one that like came with a slant 6, I'm pretty sure those have notoriously tiny drums, like 9-inch drums. So in that case, you switch to one of these common disc brake kits, you probably will feel a notable upgrade. Flip side, if you are switching to like a C6 big brake kit or like a CTSV kit, yeah, it's going to be a gigantic upgrade. But now you're talking about switching to at least 17, if not 18 or larger inch wheels to fit those huge rotors on there. And that's probably not who's watching this video right now. So if you are really looking for a huge stopping power upgrade, you need to consider a big brake kit. You need like at least 12, if not 13-inch or larger rotors. That's going to necessitate different wheels. Now this bad boy right here is almost 12 inches. This is like 11.86. I would bet that this is off of like a 70s full-size Buick Olds Pontiac vehicle. So probably like look up rotors on Rock Auto for like a 1975 Granville. I would bet that it comes with something like an 11.75-inch rotor on a 5-on-5 bolt pattern. That is almost certainly what this is. So if I just got done telling you that I didn't think disc brakes were really an upgrade in most cases, why am I bothering doing a disc brake conversion? Well, like most things, it comes down to time, effort, and money. Where I think the disc brake kits actually shine is being able to buy a kit and really getting everything you need to install it and putting it in. Let's do a little bit of math real quick. To the board. Now, I've said the choice to whether you want to switch from drum to disc really comes down to time, effort, and money. Let's do some math here and show you exactly what I mean. Now, if I didn't say it before, discs are absolutely superior technology. There's no arguing that. The point I'm making is that as long as your drums are functioning correctly, you're just not likely to see a big difference in how it feels driving under normal conditions. It's kind of like switching from a Edelbrock Performer to a Performer RPM. Are you going to notice the difference between that Performer and the RPM when you're just kind of driving around normally to your car show? Absolutely not. But that RPM is going to make numbers at the top of the scale. That's kind of an apt comparison for disc to drum. Are the discs better? Assuming same size? Yes. Are you going to notice it? Probably not, because there's honestly absolutely nothing wrong with functioning drum brakes. All right, let's get into this. Now, because I'm filming this in post and I've already done the full conversion, I can tell you that this kit, at least for my car, came with everything I needed. I did not have to make a single trip to the auto parts store and buy something like you honestly would most of the time if you're doing a drum brake rebuild. So as we said, this is an eBay kit. It's from Tom's Classic. The base price was $4.99. The shipping, because it is heavy, was $60. Tax was $39.13 for a grand total of $598.13. You know, and if you really want to hold my feet to the fire, I did have to buy one bolt. You'll see me break a bolt later. We'll call that $1, which still keeps us under $600 at $599.13. So that's pretty simple. I didn't have to buy anything extra. Just a tick under $600 for the eBay kit. Let's look at the drum side. Hopefully the glare on this isn't too terrible. Now, part of the effort equation is, can you buy all this stuff in one stop? And maybe, especially depending on the car you have. In my case, not really, at least not without overpaying. So, starting us off. The drums, you need 2 of them. Those are $179 a piece. And as far as I can tell, for a 62 Pontiac, there is one vendor. It's Ames Performance. Ames is fantastic. They sell a lot of parts for Pontiac Performance, stuff that you can't get anywhere else, as in these drums. We went ahead and bought the flex hoses from there too, because they weren't really much different. And same thing with the brake shoes, just because I have a better trust in getting the right thing from Ames as compared to like a Rock Auto or something like that. So just from there, I went ahead and put all this stuff in a cart to see how much it was going to be with taxes shipped to me. Just here, we are at $526 with tax and shipping. So we're almost all the way to what we would have paid for the disc brake kit anyway. Now we're assuming here that you are doing a full-on rebuild. You bought a project car that doesn't have functioning brakes and you want to do bearings, wheel cylinders, everything. We switched to Rock Auto here just to try and save a little bit of money here for comparison's sake. Wheel cylinders, $20. Spring kit, which I would say you're maybe a coin flip of getting the spring kit right the first time and not having to buy some extra springs or reuse some of your old ones. That's also $20. Bearings, we're assuming you're doing a full set of drums here. You want to put new bearings and races in them. These are Timken USA prices from Rock Auto. That's $32 for all of the bearings you need. And then for a mystery one here that I forgot about until I was halfway into the change, let's go to the Ghost of Future Past, Jeremy, real quick. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention with this too, when we were talking about price earlier and why the disc brake kit for this car in particular, and probably for a lot of you guys out there, is more of a bargain than it seems if you've got bad brakes and you need a total rebuild. Even if you do get the drums, it doesn't come with the hub in it. So you have to press this hub out and press it back in with new studs. I don't have a press, and I have a lot of tools. If I don't have it, there's a good chance you guys don't have it either. So chances are you're taking this to somebody to press that out, press it back in. That's time, you taking it there, bringing it back, however much it costs you if you don't have the press to do it yourself. And that's just another reason why, for me, even though it's probably not going to make a huge difference in performance over what these would have been if I had rebuilt them, it's just easier. Now, in some cases, you are going to be able to get new front drums that have the hub pressed in, so that's a problem. I wouldn't say it's specific to my car, but it's going to be specific usually to cars on the older end of the scale. If you're buying drums for a 70s car, you might be able to get the hub and drum assembly as one shipped to you. I don't know what that's going to cost. You know, if you have a press, good for you. I have a lot of tools. A press is one of the one things I don't have. If I don't have it, chances are a lot of you guys out there don't have it. So you're going to have to take that somewhere and get it done. I put 50 bucks here. I figured that's probably reasonable, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was more than that as well, depending on who you go to. So how much is this in total now? Turn the camera off there while I did some math. $648 for the drum rebuild. And that's just for your front drums, remember. Also, like I said, you are far more likely to have to make runs to the parts store when you're doing this. Now, that's not to tell you not to rebuild your drums, especially if you like the stock flavor and want to keep it factory. And this is an entire rebuild. Maybe you feel like your drums are in good shape. You can get away with just putting new shoes on. That's all going to be your own math. The one thing that I would tell you that a lot of people don't do, no matter what, even if you buy a project car and you feel like the brakes work, change these flex hoses, both the front and the back. That's a pet peeve of mine. Change those crusty old cracked flexible brake lines in your hot rod project, please. But all of a sudden, that drum rebuild compared to just doing your disc conversion, boy, the discs are looking pretty good, aren't they? And while most of your fight in doing this job period is going to come in the removal when you're fighting the rusty hardware. Once you've cleaned everything on, it's going to go back in easier. Discs are famously easier to work on. So effort is going to be a win for the discs as well, even if you're probably only going to have to do it once and then never touch it again for 20 years. Will your mileage vary on this? Absolutely. If you have a car that has way more available parts, the drums and all that stuff are going to be cheaper. But at the same time, if you have a car that has a lot more available parts, you're probably going to be able to find this disc kit a little cheaper than I could too. So might not be completely linear, but those numbers are going to chase each other a little bit. Now, I will absolutely defend drum brakes. I've said it multiple times in this video. There's nothing wrong with perfectly functional drum brakes. But on the time, effort, money scale, if they're bad anyway, that's how I ended up with a disc brake kit. Hopefully it helps you guys choose what's right for you as well. Here's an idiot with no microphone explaining to you one of the hidden pitfalls of disc conversions. It will move the wheels outward. How much so depends on your kit, but it's absolutely going to move the wheels outward to the body a little bit. So if you have tires that are already pretty close to rubbing, could potentially be a problem for you. So keep that in mind. And here's an idiot with his dog, once again talking to the air with no mic. Let's get ready for teardown. I'm going to put you guys in fast forward and play some music, and I'll try to do some voiceover for some interesting things along the way. I definitely should have manually reduced the tension on the shoes here, but I chose to have a fight instead. Story of my life. A good set of drum brake pliers goes a long way. I think vintage ones are better than the ones you can get from like Harbor Freight or Amazon. I bought these old Snap-ons off eBay for $30. There's actually a thunderstorm going on right now during this, which is why I have a lot of dogs for a task that requires 0 dogs in the garage at the moment. Oh, my back. So I was doing most of the filming on the other side of the car because I don't have very good lighting on this side of the garage. One of the things that I lost when I lost the audio, and I'll probably show you a little bit of it, but I had a bolt that even after I got the nut off just froze in the steering arm assembly here. And you can see this one did too and finally broke off. So I can't get much on it to hammer that out, so I got to try to get this off of here. And we are going to try to trick it by stacking on some washers. Well, we got that started. It's crooked, but it started. It might be enough if I just ramrod this down with a... Is that actually tightening? Yeah, it is. All right. All right, all right. Of course, this is not going to be... Oh, that is the right one. No, it's 13. All right, and 11/16. There we go. Washers everywhere. Ooh, that's hot. Ow. Man triumphs over machine. I'm really just trying to get all of the dirty stuff done so I can come out here tomorrow and just put together clean parts. Because I am filthy and would really like to take a shower. My back hurts. Our pets' heads are falling off. If it weren't for corrosion, this would not be a difficult job. I am going to have to go to the hardware store tomorrow and get a replacement for the bolt that I broke. Now, the ones on this side both had L's on them, which made me think they were left-hand thread. They weren't. This one has a circle with 2 dots on the end. And these are all the same thing. These all look like factory bolts to me. That is a marking I have never seen before. I'm already dirty, so let's grab the dirty part. Let's show you real quick. See how well that shows up. You can see the light edges in there. How cooked this was, how crazy grooved it was, which of course grooved the pad as well. The other side isn't quite as bad, but still sucked. And again, I really thought, like I looked everywhere to try to find just like a Rock Auto level price for a brake drum for these, and it just does not exist, at least for the front. You might get lucky and find the back, but the front on these with the, you know, big, whatever this is, 12 or 13 inch and 5x5 bolt pattern, it's just not there. So now that we got the whole thing off, let's talk about installing it. This is probably why a lot of you guys are here. Now, there's really only 2 parts of this that you'd sort of need directions for. One of them is the caliper bracket, which only goes on one way, so you can't really mess that up. We'll show you that in a second. The other one is this little guy here. Now, I mentioned earlier, with no sound, so I'm going to mention again later and then put it earlier, that disc brakes almost inevitably move your wheel out. That's part of this. This is a spacer, essentially. So this is going to ride on your inner bearing. This is going to ride on that. Tapered in goes out. So this is just going to kick your whole rotor assembly out a little bit on your spindle so your caliper and your pads and all that stuff line up. Aside from that, everything here goes in the same order that it would have when it came out of your drum assembly. Now, some of this, like our bearing that we're going to have to grease and the seal, is all going to go in as part of an assembly anyway. But I've got it all mapped out here. So you're going to go adapter, seal, inner bearing, then your rotor's in the middle. Then you have your outer bearing, this little plate, I don't know what its proper name's called. You're going to set your preload, put your cotter key in, and then you have your dust cap on the end. And I've got a picture of this that'll get you zoomed in on. Talk a little bit more about this guy, because when you go try to put this on, you're probably going to find that it doesn't go all the way in like it's supposed to. We have our caliper bracket in here. These only go on one way. They're not marked in any way, unfortunately, but they will only go on one way because of this. They recess your caliper backwards, so if you were to try to do it this way, it would pull it out, whereas it actually goes backwards. You could, in theory, go this way, but then your caliper would be in front, and you don't want that. So again, only goes on one way. Kind of hard to mess up. You get a new bolt with your kit. For your top one here, you have to reuse your two bottom bolts. The bottom two bolts have lock washers. The top one did not, so the top one got a little bit of blue Loctite. Pretty straightforward on those. Here's our little adapter spacer. It needs to go all the way back and be flush with your spindle assembly. It will not go. Now, we can hammer it on. It'd be kind of difficult. We'd have to find something to get around this. And I'm not saying that we're not going to do that. That is still on the table. But before we do that, when I've had these before with kits that come with directions, they'll tell you to try to heat this up. It'll either tell you to put it in boiling water for a period of time on your stove, or to preheat your oven to like 400 degrees and put it in there for a while. We have a little MAP gas torch here. We're going to channel our newly discovered rage into the flames. And then hopefully, once it's heated, it'll expand just enough to where it'll slide on there. Let's give that a shot. Boom, there you go. Heat for the win. All that she wants is another baby. All right, let's grease this thing up. Now, these bearings here, they don't say made in China on them, but they don't say made in USA either. So I am going to take pictures of these. I think probably what I'm going to do is order myself some known good, like made in USA Timkins of the same size, and throw them in the glove box. These are almost certainly going to be fine, but just in case they are super Chinesium and aren't fine, if they start making noise, I'll just have the parts already and not have to order them and wait. So we're gonna grease this guy up, drop it in there, put our seal on the back of it, grease this guy up, then after we put the rotor on, this will go in. Got a brand new tub of grease because the one that I'd been working from for like legit like 10 years, since like 2016 when I actually bought my Firebird in California is when I first got this. But that has finally kind of come up empty. So I'm sure you guys have seen people do this before, but this is the manual old school way to pack bearings. You just run it through your palm. You can get like packing tools pretty cheaply these days via Amazon, Temu, etc. But I don't do this enough to justify a tool. You know, I do this maybe 3 times a year. When you see it start to squeeze out the top, that's when you can feel pretty good that you're fully greased. Take just a little bit and run it over the race and drop that bad boy in there. Okay, let's do our other one, and then we'll put a clean pair of gloves on. All right, now for the seal, it really only goes on one way, so it's kind of hard to screw up. Throw that in there. Now, I have a seal driver. It's old and beat up. I bought it at a yard sale. If you don't have one, just find yourself a big flat surface and bang her in there. Installed. So now we can see with my lovely paper towel display that I drew for you guys, we are all the way up to the rotor. Everything left is on the outside of the rotor. Now, before I put the rotor in and I have a bunch of stuff in my way, I'm going to go ahead and put the line in. Now, off the top of my head, we've got this little adapter. My wife is calling me.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Hello.
You're on speaker. All right. Talk to you later. It's much longer than the standard hose, which I don't know if it needs to be this long. I gotta say, this irritates me. I'm pretty sure that this adapter is to go to the hard line, which that's irritating. I'm gonna see if it goes in there without that, but I don't think it's going to. That's super annoying, and I would bet if you search Summit, because they list your ends pretty well, you could find one that works, because this is gonna mean I'm gonna have to bend this hard line here up because of this extra space that's here now. So that is hyper irritating, I'm not gonna lie. But if you care about it, it's fixable. All right, I already loosened these, so this should just come off. I don't know what that was. Something just fell. I'm gonna take this off first. Yeah, that is certainly what that is. Will this go in there? No. Yep, so that is what that's for. That's annoying, because they definitely could have just given you a hose that worked without this adapter. So if you're buying this kit exactly, and this would bother you as much as it's bothering me, buy a brake kit, buy a brake line kit that's going to have a banjo fitting on one end and a fitting on the other end that'll fit your normal brake line. There, that started. I guess that wasn't that bad, to be fair. Might have blown that up a little bit. Made a bigger deal out of that than it needed to be. I thought that was going to be more of a fight. Well, I have managed to lose the little clip. Let me find that real quick. We are just about done here. Throw our rotor on. Grab our inner bearing. A little bit of grease on the inner race here. Throw our inner bearing in there. Plate. And then ramrod this sucker on there. What size be that? So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way tight to get it set, and then back it off a little bit and then set the preload. So that's really tight. Yeah, see, that's too tight. And I like that. I'm not going to bend that cotter key yet because we're going to put the caliper on just in case we've got to come back out. I don't want to waste that cotter key. We managed to keep this pretty clean, but let's go ahead and get off any potential grease that would have been on here from packing before we introduce our brake pads to it. Yeah, see? Still pretty nasty. I did not test fit this first. Always remember the bleeder point is going to go up. So that should give you an idea of how these are going to go. Are these side by side, side to side? Let's look before I throw that on there and then find out. Should go on the other way. I'm going to go pull the other one out of the box and just make sure that these aren't side specific. All right, they are side specific. I'm glad I went over and looked. I had the right one to begin with. The bleeder screw goes on the top like we mentioned, and the banjo fitting goes inside. So your bleeder screw is also going to be on top and inside. Oh, there we go. Slides right in. Get a pin in here. That would be dope. Did I not bring those down with me? Don't fall. Be cool. Okay. There's that. Get the second one. Oh, that's not going to fly. Just beat the shit out of my car, that's fine. And there you go. Disc brakes pretty much installed. We got to connect our banjo fitting and put the dust cap on, bend our cotter key out here, do the other side, bleed the brakes, rock and roll. So for anybody who may be unfamiliar with the banjo fitting, it's going to come with 2 copper crush washers. One goes on either side of this. So one's going to go in between your line and your caliper, and the other one is going to go in between your line and your bolt here. And if you mangle one, you can go buy these as like Dorman parts at any AutoZone, O'Reilly's, whatever. They'll just be out on the floor. You don't need to know make, model, vehicle, anything like that. These have an angle to them, so just kind of flip them around until they feel correct. Now, one kind of anomaly here, this kit, I'm gonna have to go get a different ratchet, but this kit came with 2 different sizes of banjo screw. One came in the box with the calipers and the other one was in your spare parts. I'm betting that is because old Tom orders his calipers just from, like, you know, a parts warehouse, whatever. And he probably doesn't know if he's getting metric calipers or one with SAE fitting. So this one, because it came with the calipers, I think the one I'm using is a 10 mil, but I bet the other one is like 3/8 24 or something like that. I bet the other one's an SAE equivalent because they look really close, but the thread pitch is a little bit different. So he's probably just doing you a solid there, just in case you got the opposite fitting type. So yeah, this one is a 10 millimeter fitting or bolt head, which means the other one's probably, you know, an SAE equivalent. These lines are kind of long, so just make sure you get them in a spot that they're not going to rub on anything before you tighten them down. I think these are going to be okay the way they are. One disc brake assembly, assembled. Before we start bleeding, let's talk about master cylinders really quickly. Do you need to change to a disc brake master cylinder to do a conversion like this? No, you do not. If you are doing a complete front to back brake rebuild, including your master cylinder, absolutely go ahead and throw one in there that's made for the application. In my case, this had a single pot master cylinder in there, which you can still use if you want to deal with the dangers that come with that. Mine leaked. I did a whole video on putting this 8C10 disc drum master cylinder in this, which I then used with drums all the way around for like 2 years. Completely works. If you want to see that video, there's actually 2 of them. There's a long version and a short version. I'll put a link to them down in the description. But no, you don't have to change. If you want to keep your single pot master cylinder or whatever master cylinder came in your vehicle and then do a disc brake conversion, you absolutely can. It will work, I promise. Now for this next part, you need your Badger. I'm just kidding. He's in the way. He's, what's the phrase? Extraneous to the needs of the task. But this is his car. He's really looking forward to us getting it done. We'll take him for a quality control ride later. Moving on to bleeding the brakes. This is a Motive Power Bleeder. They are super handy for DIYers, especially if you're like me and you got grazed by antisocial tendencies at birth. You work by yourself. These are really handy. They're not the only game in town. You can use a vacuum bleeder. You can also use like a 2-way check valve. You see them advertised on TikTok. I have one of those. They absolutely do work. You can buy them on Amazon for like 10 bucks. Now, I really like this thing. I've had it for years. They are elite if you have a master cylinder with like a threaded cap, because then your adapter will screw in. They do work with the plate setup like this, but I'm going to give you a couple of caveats that'll help you out. Namely, the little chain system that comes with this, just throw it in the garbage. Doesn't work. And I read that when I originally bought this in the reviews. People said the chain sucked. Just buy a couple of like C-clamps. And I had to learn for myself, and the reviews were right in this case. The chain setup that's supposed to hold this down, completely useless. You end up spilling brake fluid everywhere. Just don't bother. So grab yourself a couple of cheap Harbor Freight C-clamps. These are like, I think these are 6-inch clamps. With a dual pot, it helps use 2. And this is aluminum, so you don't got to go crazy. But just get it down nice and tight. Do it kind of one at a time, going back and forth. I found that out the hard way too. If you kind of tighten one all the way down and then come back to the other one, it's likely to be standing up. Your alignment's going to be off. All right, the other caveat with these. One, when you pump it up, if you don't have it right, you are likely to spill brake fluid everywhere. So if you have a really nicely detailed engine bay, you know, if you've got a nicer car than mine and you worry about getting brake fluid on paint because paint hates brake fluid, just be cautious. Like, honestly, like if I had a super detailed engine bay, I probably wouldn't use this. I'd probably use a vacuum bleeder, or I would just, your friend, your wife, your kid, whoever, to pump the brakes while you operate the bleeder screw from the outside. What I do like about these, though, as opposed to just doing it the traditional way like that, is you can pump it up and then go around casually at your leisure and look for leaks, because you can pressurize the system and then find where you might have a leak or not. Whereas it's kind of harder to do that when you just got somebody inside pumping the brakes, because you're not under constant pressure that way. At the same time, again, related to paint on brakes, I've had issues with this overfilling the master cylinder. So when you're done and you release this and you pull it off, the master cylinder will be all the way full. It doesn't happen every time. I'm honestly not sure why it occurs sometimes and other times it doesn't, but just know that when you pull this off, be careful. If you're afraid of getting brake fluid somewhere, it might drip and it might be like super full. So just be careful of that. And if you're like me and you have a crusty old engine bay and don't care anyway, then fire away. All right, so we're all installed. We're gonna make sure this lid is tight. And we've got a little gauge here. We're gonna pump it up to about 10 PSI. There is brake fluid in here, by the way. You can see it coming around. So what this does, on top of pressurizing the system, is it makes it so you don't run out of fluid because it takes any fluid in here. Get my light here. Look around, make sure we're not overflowing brake fluid anywhere. I wonder if I just don't have enough fluid in here at the moment. Like I can feel it. It's just not building pressure on the gauge. There we go. Yeah, I think we just maybe didn't have enough in here. So I got a little bit more than I wanted. We're up at about 13 PSI and it's holding. So if you got here and it wasn't holding pressure, you would start looking for leaks. The fact that I'm holding is good. So now we're gonna go down below and just kind of bleed the brakes like normal. Oh, our bleeder screws here are 10 millimeter. You know, it's funny, the things that stick with us in the garage, but I have been bleeding brakes with this Diet Mountain Dew bottle and this hose for probably 10 years. There we go. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's spitting out bubbles. So we're just gonna hold this until it's no longer spitting out bubbles and then tighten it down. And then we'll go to the other one. Super easy, no yelling down. And I think we're good. Tighten that bad boy up. And of course I spilled it everywhere. That's funny. Why is it pressure built like that? I have never had that happen in all the times I've bled brakes with this thing. I don't know why. That's funny. I would have been pissed if I got that all over the paint. But yeah, that's never happened to me before. Now, it is important when you have a spill like that to go through and wipe it all up, because remember, anytime you do maintenance like this, you're looking for leaks. If you just have random spilled brake fluid laying around, you don't know if you have a leak or not. So keep that in mind. Before we move to our other brake, we're going to look and make sure we still have pressure. We do. It actually hasn't moved at all, which is good. All right, let's bleed the other one, see if this one is a gusher as well. That was weird. This one should go faster because we got most of the air out of the hose on the other side. Yeah, we're already no more bubbles. Now, if you want, you can go through and repeat a few times. Let's see if this... Okay, we didn't get the Old Faithful that time. I really don't know what caused that pressurization. I think it actually had such a good seal here at the top of the bottle, which it doesn't, that it pressurized the bottle is what I think happened there. All right, let's clean up and then go in and press our brakes. See how they feel. I got you guys zoomed in on the brakes. We're gonna go in here and press the pedal and see if they activate. What'd you guys see? They look like they were going? Pedal feels pretty good from out here. How'd they look? Did they work? I'll have to go in for myself and look back at the video. All right, everything seems good. Brakes are bled. Now, we're gonna take this off. And I will say this is one of the only things about this system I don't like. There's no release valve button. So you just kind of have to pop the lid a little bit. Just kind of be careful so it doesn't like spill out. I've never really had that issue, but I don't want to tell you that, oh, it's not a problem, and then have one of you guys have it actually be an issue. There you go. So now our pressure is released, and we can take this off. Let's see if it does what I said they do sometimes and end up super overfilled. unclamp. I've got a rag here. I'm gonna lift this kind of straight up. And out. And it didn't really do it that time. We are actually slightly low in the front booster here. We'll put some more in there. I suspect that is just because I didn't have probably enough loose brake fluid in my canister there. We'll top this off, put the lid on, check the brakes again, and then go for a test drive. You know, I'm kind of wondering if when you overfill it, is if you go the other way, if you don't release pressure on the cap first and you pop the pressure down here, like remove the clamps first, I wonder if that then releases all the pressure into the master cylinder and it just pumps all the fluid that's in the lines into said master cylinder. So maybe that's the trick. Maybe make sure you remember to release the pressure on the canister first before you pop the seal on the master cylinder. Wheels are back on. Got our quality control associate loaded up. Let's go for a test drive. I made sure it stopped, just kind of going in and out. Pedal feels a little bit softer, which could be normal. We did make a major change. I've got a big steep hill over here. I'm going to go and just make sure it stops going down that and kind of compare it to what it felt like before. Be back in a second. Well, we're off to a good start here because I was able to come to a stop for this little guy. Eastern box turtle. Be safe, buddy. If I didn't have Badger in the car, I would have stopped and moved him across the road, but I don't want to risk him jumping out and me chasing him going up and down the road. What you see, buddy? More wildlife fun. There's a deer in the graveyard that I turned around in. Girl, you want to talk about a night and day difference? That was a night and day difference. I know I talked a bunch earlier how disc brakes aren't always an upgrade, but when your drums were as worn out as mine were, that was a huge upgrade. The pedal is a little bit softer. I'm pretty sure that's just normal. I might try to re-bleed them again just to make sure, but it stopped beautifully, and that was before I even bothered to bed in the pads. I couldn't like bed the pads in real hard with the dog in the car, so I'll go do that on my own, which is going to piss him off when I leave in this car without him. But needs must. I don't want to put the poor guy through the windshield. But before, with this thing, number one, the drums weren't self-adjusting, so I had to adjust them myself. And when you slammed on the brakes hard, not only did it not stop as well as you would like it to, like I don't think I could have locked them up in this if I needed to. It pulled one way really hard and shook. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, if it was pulling, it was misadjusted. I've adjusted this thing till I've been blue in the face before, and I made it better, but it still always pulled to the right when you slammed on the brakes. And I honestly think that either the pads, shoes on the right side were impregnated with grease and oil and just didn't grab as much as they should, or they were just slapped too worn out to ever get adjusted close to one another. One was just grabbing harder than the other one. I mean, I showed you how like crazy grooved those brake drums were. That is going to do it for this episode. Out with the old, in with the brand new disc brakes. It stops beautifully now. And hopefully, if one of you guys found this video just because you have one of those eBay disc brake kits that don't come with any instructions, hopefully I helped you through that as well. And if you have 62 Pontiac, know that this does work. You don't need any extra parts. It came with all the parts it needs, even if they didn't tell you how to put them in. But you can buy that kit and expect to not have to spend any more money and have yourself disc brakes. Thank you for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.